Oggetti misteriosi volano ogni sera sopra le basi militari degli Stati Uniti. Sono grandi quanto un'auto, immuni a interferenze radio e nessuno sa da dove arrivino. E il governo minimizza tutto. A parlare è Ryan Graves, ex pilota di caccia della Marina USA. È stato il primo militare in servizio attivo a denunciare pubblicamente la presenza di UAP nei cieli americani. Secondo lui questi droni non sono giocattoli, ma mezzi sofisticati capaci di sorvegliare obiettivi strategici per ore. Ogni sera, sopra Langley, dozzine di questi oggetti appaiono puntuali mezz'ora dopo il tramonto. Al largo della California 19 navi da guerra sono state seguite per settimane da interi sciami. La minaccia è reale, ma il silenzio è assordante. L'opinione pubblica ne sa sempre meno e le segnalazioni vengono archiviate troppo in fretta. Ma adesso guardiamo l'intervista di Ryan Graves su Elizabeth Vargas Report.
Break this all down. Let's go to Ryan Graves, who's the first active duty pilot to come forward publicly about regular sightings of UAPs. He's also the founder of Americans for Safe Aerospace. Ryan, great to have you back on the show. So there seems to be this big disconnect between what the White House is saying about the drones, that they're recreational and FAA approved, and top military officials who say there's evidence that they're far more sophisticated and they're possibly spying devices.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm interpreting as well. There seems to be this policy of downplaying this issue from the executive branch itself, while individual components from the executive branch, such as the FAA and the DoD, are both proclaiming pretty loudly that they don't know what these are. They're not responsible for them. They haven't authorized these flights. And of course, we can't forget the local politicians and the civilians on the ground that continue to see these vehicle-sized objects flying low over their head and still not having any answers.
Yeah, a retired four-star general and former fighter pilot said he saw dozens of these drones flying over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia every night, about half an hour after sunset. He said some of them were as big as small cars.
Yeah, and that's as much as any individual representative wants to downplay this as just hobbyists picking something up at Walmart and taking it flying over the house. What we're talking about are very sophisticated objects that have extremely long loiter times, ability to stay over their objective. And again, these car-sized objects, these are serious vehicles. These are not toys, and we have to treat them with the respect that they deserve in case they might be an adversary and in case they're collecting on our sensitive facilities, which might very well be the case.
Yeah, we have also reports that 19 naval warships training off the coast of California were shadowed for weeks by dozens of drones. Do you think this is a national security concern? Because I know a lot of members of the military and other retired military like yourself do.
Well, the cases that you just brought up echo to me the same sentiment that we were having when we were having our individual occurrences off of the coast of Virginia Beach back in the 2013 and 2014 time period. And that area is only 80 miles or so away from Langley Air Force Base. And it was, in my opinion, a national security concern when it was happening back then. And although we've talked a lot about it on the show together, it's still a gaping hole in our national security that we've yet to plug.
Yeah, we heard Armed Services Committee member Senator Tommy Tuberville in our setup repeat the White House line that it's all fine, nothing to see here. But committee chair Senator Wicker said on that CBS report that military officials are still mystified about the drones. Do you think this committee will finally get to the bottom of this?
I don't know. What's clear is that there seems to be two very different competing agendas going on, even in the halls of Congress as well, not just within the executive branch. But the bottom line is people are seeing this. This is a national security concern when these are infiltrating our bases, and we need to figure out who they are. So we need to figure out less about who's saying what side of the story and try to figure out how we can plug this gap.
We aren't hearing very much. I mean, there was a time late last year when these drone sightings led almost every newscast that I anchored here. It was huge news, front page news, lead story news, everywhere. We're not hearing anything more about the sightings lately. Do you think that they've stopped, or do you think that, there's just so much other stuff going on that its attention has faded?
I predicted this a little bit back in early December when I was asked how I thought this was going to end. And my prediction was that it was simply going to kind of fizzle off the radar a bit, that the amount of reports would start to decrease. The media cycle would start to focus on something else, especially around the holidays. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Americans for Safe Aerospace, we receive a lot of reports from not only pilots and professionals, but from the average civilian as well. And at safeaerospace.org, we've been receiving many reports from the New Jersey area and elsewhere about similar incidences, as well as, of course, following various social media posts and otherwise. We're fairly confident that this is still occurring. And we are looking at options of being able to bring some counter-UAS technology to bear on this problem.
What does it mean when we have these military generals saying that these drones that were hovering over aircraft or over Air Force bases were impervious to radio jamming? Explain that and why that is significant.
Yeah, absolutely. The drones in New Jersey, as well as the ones that you just mentioned, seem to be exhibiting what's considered signal management capabilities. So anything from light coming off an aircraft to the heat energy to the radio transmissions it might be emitting, all of those signals can be observed and potentially interfered with in order to cause issues. So if those objects are being controlled from a central location, if they can intercept those radio frequency waves and essentially hack into it and tell it to either land or to go back home or to perhaps even find out where it came from, that would be the goal. But in the cases off the coast as well as in New Jersey, they failed to be able to track the location based off of their radio frequency.
Come avete sentito, Graves dice che c'è una falla nella sicurezza nazionale e se non facciamo nulla potremo scoprirlo troppo tardi. E voi che cosa ne pensate? Lasciate un commento e seguite il canale per i nuovi aggiornamenti. E ricordate che in questo viaggio non siete da soli. Un abbraccio, Sax.